Hello, and welcome to Office Coffee Pot Stories, the channel where we detail the true cost of recklessness, the slow burn of strategy, and the ultimate power of silence. The most dangerous people in any room are the ones who don't feel the need to shout. They are the observers, the planners, the silent architects of fate. I remember every detail of that night in Boston. You were never enough in bed anyway. That's what she screamed. Over the clinking ice and the soft rhythm of a jazz band, she grabbed her boss by the tie, pulled him close, and kissed him in front of 200 people, board members, high-net-worth clients, and her own father. Someone gasped. Someone muttered, "Jesus." But I just stood there. Tuxedo pressed, tie straight. I raised my glass. It wasn't the toast they expected. They thought I'd shout, or cry, or maybe even punch the guy in his smug, designer suit face. Instead, I smiled, a real smile. The kind you give when the final chess piece clicks into place, precisely where you planned for it to be. See, what she didn't know, what not a single soul in that ballroom knew, was that at 6:03 that morning, I had slipped a manila folder into my briefcase. It was thin, unassuming, no labels on the outside. Just one inside tab, trigger file. And the moment her lipstick touched his mouth, the tab became active. Even better, her father was there. The corner table. He saw it all. The announcement, the kiss, the way she laughed afterward, like she'd just thrown confetti made of bone. He didn't say a word. Just stood up, buttoned his coat, and left. And that, folks, was the moment the game stopped being just marital. It became financial, legal, institutional. Let me back up for context, because this wasn't just a husband hurt by cheating wife story. This was a compliance war. This was a misappropriation of client data war. This was a post-nup triggered, federally monitored, silent execution type war. And she walked right into it in 5-inch heels and a stolen grin. She was laughing as she drank, which told me everything I needed to know. Arrogance, false security. She genuinely believed that being the star senior investment strategist at our Boston-based private equity firm made her untouchable. Let me tell you something about people who think they're immune. They forget how many paper trails they leave. And when the person married to them works in forensic wealth, vetting for high-net-worth clients, those trails don't fade. They light up like gasoline. If you're still listening, I appreciate it, really. Because more than 90% of you who listen to these stories never hit subscribe, and you have no idea how much that one click fuels the team behind this. No sponsorships, no smoke, just stories, sharp and real. So yeah, if this one keeps your eyes open, do us a solid and hit that subscribe button right now. Back to the ballroom. The moment ended quickly. A few co-workers coughed into their napkins. I saw one of the junior partners look down at his watch and mutter something to his wife. People wanted out, but didn't want to be rude. Classic corporate paralysis. She, Sienna Vance, strutted off after the kiss, laughing with two of the analysts who clearly hated her but wanted to survive her. Her boss, Victor Thorne, stayed behind, adjusting his collar like a quarterback after a bad pass. He looked directly at me for a split second. That's when I smiled a second time. The kind of smile that says, you just activated your own termination protocol. You see, this wasn't the first humiliation. It was just the first public one. I had been collecting data for 6 months. Pattern recognition, expense logs, compliance irregularities that only someone who built wealth risk models for federal contractors would notice. And her father, Mr. Alistair Vance, the majority shareholder? Oh, the sweet irony. He was the one who once told me, if this firm ever gets sloppy, you better be the first to notice. He thought I was soft, too mild. But sharks don't roar. They circle, and now I had everything I needed. She thought that night was a victory lap. It was a confession, delivered under dim lights and jazz saxophone, with free champagne, and I never had to say a word. The bourbon didn't burn anymore. It used to. But now it just filled the glass like ink in a pen, a ritual, not a relief. I sat at the old walnut desk she insisted I keep because it looked expensive enough to impress her boss on Zoom. The drawer creaked open like it had a soul. Top layer. Her employment agreement. She never read it. Said contracts were boring things for boring people. Which is probably why she never noticed. Section 9.4, the one titled Disclosure Liability across vertical supervision, buried in legalese. But clear enough if you knew what to look for. Any romantic involvement with a supervisory figure required notification to compliance within 5 business days. Failure to notify? Immediate grounds for termination and clawback of restricted shares. Retroactively. Beneath that, 3 folders marked client dinners, each one time-stamped. Each one with receipts from high-end restaurants she never mentioned. I cross-checked the Amex statements and found a pattern. 3 charges, 2 hours apart. All under the same vendor ID as one of our top-tier trust clients. Only the client had never been there. I knew because I'd booked the estate for him through the firm's concierge service. Under the folders sat a laminated compliance flowchart. In red marker, I'd drawn circles around 5 terms. Material non-public info, executive bias vector, romantic conflict of interest, access override, and client fiduciary compromise. A sequence of events, like dominoes. And then, at the very bottom, a handwritten note. One sentence. If this turns out to be true, let me know. Her father's penmanship. He'd given me that note 8 weeks ago. He hadn't believed it. Or maybe he had. Just didn't want to admit his daughter had become a legal liability wrapped in lipstick and perfume. I scanned each item, timestamped the new folder entries, and uploaded them to the secure portal I'd built through an encrypted virtual workspace I named FedPath. The folder I opened, Initiate. Inside were subfolders, voice logs, account conflicts, trigger letter. I didn't flinch. I wasn't angry. I was something colder, cleaner, surgical. That night, in the drawer beneath the bourbon glass, I placed one last object. A tiny silver key. It opened a safe deposit box she didn't know existed. Inside it, something I'd kept since we were married, our original prenup, plus the revised postnup. The one with the clause she skimmed over because she was too busy tweeting about power couples. The one with language about reputational derailment clauses and separate asset pathway triggers in the event of public misconduct. She always thought silence meant weakness. It never occurred to her that silence could be infrastructure. 8:42 a.m. I had to step outside to make the call. The balcony was icy, wind biting through my sleeves. I dialed a number I hadn't used in 4 years. Diana picked up halfway through the first ring. You better not be calling me about another tax dodger from Aspen. I took a breath. We may have a 204-01 violation across a regulated investment entity. Silence. Married to it? She asked, voice flat. Yes. Good. That's why I called her, I said. You'll want to forward me the partner's trading logs, she continued. And the boss's Form ADV, full version. I already had them both prepped. But there's one more file. You'll want to hear it. I walked back inside, pressed play on my laptop. Diana listened in real time. Her voice, my wife's, light, casual. Honestly, who cares if it's illegal? My dad owns half the firm. You think the SEC is going to touch us? If they do, we'll throw that fossil board member under the bus. Then, laughter. Victor's, too. I hit stop. Diana said, very softly, Jesus Christ, she actually said it. Unprovoked, I replied. 3 weeks ago. She didn't know the mic was hot. All right. Send everything. I'll loop in someone else. Who? Someone who doesn't need a warrant to pull metadata from brokerage feeds. Diana was more than just an ex-mentor. She had moved laterally from the SEC into a federal compliance unit that didn't get cute with forms. She once told me, if you ever need to bring a house down, make sure you call me before you light the match. This wasn't a match anymore. It was gasoline on a ballroom floor. The transfer finished. It now read, security layer, red line activated. I closed the laptop. Diana sent a text less than a minute later. Got it. Not looping in SEC yet. Starting with internal inquiry. Expect contact. You'll be protected. This wasn't about protection anymore. This was about escalation. And now, it was officially federal. If this deeply detailed, calculated revenge story fascinates you, you are not alone. Please subscribe to Stoic Love and hit the notification bell so you never miss another story of strategic, quiet payback. By noon, everything that needed to be done was. No rage, no pacing, just the soft tap of keys and the occasional buzz of confirmations arriving in my inbox. Step 1. Joint accounts. Gone. I executed a full disassociation of her user permissions. She couldn't access the Morgan account, nor the Fidelity, nor the insurance dashboard. Step 2. Clause 8C. I called Marcus, my estate attorney. Activate 8 Charlie, I said. Effective yesterday. The clause had been her idea, ironically, during a wine-soaked conversation about high-profile marriages imploding over Instagram scandals. Now the same clause was burning through her legal access, like acid through silk. Step 3. The family office. I called the managing director of the Brenner Fund, her father's legacy structure. He didn't ask questions. We already heard. 10 minutes later, her access to all co-managed assets was flagged under internal review. Frozen. Then came her text. Last night got wild face blowing a kiss. I'm gonna be late, lol. She had no idea what clock she was late to, or that the ticking she heard wasn't a hangover headache. It was a countdown. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my inbox and forwarded the finalized postnup to one recipient. Her father, Mr. Alistair Vance. No message, no context, Just the file, Clause 8C highlighted in yellow. Enacted per provision, no appeal required. By 12:19 p.m., her legal footprint had been narrowed from executive spouse to estranged liability, quietly, without confrontation, just the silent hum of revocation protocols and legal triggers. This wasn't revenge. This was asset protection. He didn't knock, just walked in like the place belonged to him. It was her father. He set a bottle of Lagavulin on the kitchen counter like it was a white flag. "I saw what she did," he said. "Tell me everything." There was no heat, just the kind of cool detachment that made him lethal in negotiations. I placed the binder on the kitchen island, no theatrics. Just flipped it open and started from the top. Calendar discrepancies, unauthorized logins using her boss's account. The kitchen audio transcript, highlighted with her exact quote. "Does she know you have this?" he asked. "No. She thinks I'm still processing." And the federal angle? Already engaged. Deanna took point. "I didn't loop an SEC. Yet. I built that firm to withstand market collapse, not scandal," he muttered. He looked down at the binder one last time, then back up. "I'll take it from here." He walked out without touching the scotch. 3 hours later, I received a message from an internal staffer. "He's here, no knock." Just walked into Victor's office. Had a folder. Closed the door. Victor Thorne, the boss she kissed, was sitting behind his desk when the door opened without warning. Her father, tailored, stone-faced, stepped inside. "If you've exposed our firm, you're done." He dropped the folder. Victor opened it, and his face reportedly went 3 shades paler than the marble in the boardroom atrium. No screaming, just pages. And consequences. Because this wasn't a pissed-off father defending his daughter. This was a capital stakeholder protecting his legacy. And when that legacy starts bleeding compliance violations and SEC liabilities because of a smug executive sleeping with his own daughter, he doesn't call HR. He calls lawyers. That was the night the axis shifted. She still thought it was about a marriage. She didn't realize it had become about containment. Because when your own father turns on you, not emotionally, but legally, you stop being a daughter and become a risk profile. And risk profiles get deleted. She was in bed, scrolling through Instagram stories of the holiday party, still giggling at the crown jewel, the clip of her grabbing Victor by the tie and planting that smug kiss while shouting, "You were never enough in bed anyway." Then, the locked number buzzed again. Finally, she answered. "What?" she said with a mock groan. Instead, she got screaming. "What the hell did you say to him?" It was her lawyer, Jerome. "Jerome, what's your problem?" 3 federal agents. He spat. "And your father?" Your father, with a full witness statement, just walked into Victor's office with a document folder that is going to burn this firm to the damn ground. "This isn't about the kiss," he barked. "You discussed sensitive financial data on a recorded line. You said, 'Who cares if it's illegal? My dad owns half the firm.' That's admissible. That's criminal. And there's metadata linking your timestamps to trades in advance of quarterly shifts. Then, the final blow. Hope your father doesn't hand over the second binder." "What second binder?" "Your husband compiled it. 6 months worth of logs. Your dad's backing it. He already signed a formal witness statement to federal counsel." She dropped the phone. On the screen, a paused frame of her kiss with Victor. Still smug. Only now, her own eyes were wide. Like she was seeing it for the first time not as a stunt, but as a detonator. If you appreciate the strategic depth of stories where silence beats noise, please subscribe to Stoic Love and join our community of survivors. The next morning, she strutted into the building like nothing had changed. She swiped her keycard at the main entrance. Red light. No access. She tried again. The guard didn't smile. He just picked up the phone. Within 10 seconds, 2 HR reps and someone from IT walked briskly into the lobby. They took her upstairs, but not to her office. Her office was sealed. Access locked down. Compliance hold. She saw a tech cloning her workstation drive onto a secure black box. They led her to a small, bare conference room. "This is a formal employment review session." They slid a single sheet of paper across the table. "Notice of termination, pending final review." Her eyes flew down the page. Reason for review. Client endangerment. Non-disclosure of executive romantic conflict. Breach of Clause 14. Ethical fiduciary representation. Clause 14. The legacy clause her father had insisted on. She looked at the signature line at the bottom. Signed, Alistair Vance, Chairman Emeritus. "I want to speak to him," she said, voice cracking. "He is not available to you at this time," the legal officer replied coolly. "Per internal protocol, executive family conflict requires recusal." "You can't do this," she hissed, standing. "I am this firm." "No," the woman replied coolly. "You were an access liability. Now, You're a subject of review. She walked out of the building she once ruled, not with fire, but with frost in her veins. The last thing she saw before the elevator doors closed was the new placard posted outside the executive wing. All personnel subject to Clause 14 compliance review. Immediate enforcement in effect. The firm didn't even try to spin it. Just a cold, 8-line bulletin. A compliance event has occurred involving senior staff. Immediate procedural safeguards are in effect. 8 hours after that email hit inboxes, the firm's primary custodial bank confirmed $40 million in client capital had been pulled. Quietly, surgically. Victor Thorne was placed on indefinite leave. His access revoked. Publicly, and right beneath it in smaller font, Miss Sienna Vance. Status. Access terminated. No review. Just gone. She saw it from her phone, sitting in a half-empty cafe 2 blocks from the building. She called her father. Straight to voicemail. She called her husband. An auto-reply email in her inbox seconds later. Per legal guidance, all communication is closed. Please direct any inquiries through counsel. She didn't cry. Didn't scream. Just sat there. Phone in hand. There was no one else to call. The final blow came 3 weeks after the board vote. The chairwoman, Angela, recited the protocol, confirmed quorum, and asked for votes. 8 hands raised. Unanimous. Victor Thorne, terminated with cause. Sienna Vance, banned from future affiliation. At exactly 2:44 p.m., there was a knock at her apartment door. Courier. Anonymous. Black envelope. She ripped it open. Inside, a single-page document. Per a unanimous board vote, your restricted stock units, RSUs, have been voided under Clause 14B of the Partnership Charter. All rights, claims, and pending distributions are henceforth dissolved. She dropped the paper, then picked it up again. Read it a second time. The RSUs were supposed to be her ticket, her fallback. Now they were gone. Voided. The collapse of belief. This wasn't just a scandal. It was an extinction. The backyard wasn't grand, just clean lines. I sat beneath a Japanese maple, watching the sunlight move across the gravel. The silence wasn't awkward. It was earned. Then came the sound of approaching footsteps. Her father. He stopped beside the chair but didn't sit, just stood. You were calm, he said finally. Cold. Surgical. She said I was never enough in bed, I replied. I looked up at the sky, but I was enough to bury them both, without raising my voice. Her father nodded. Once, firm, and walked away. That night, in a different neighborhood, in a rented apartment she couldn't afford, Sienna stood at her front door, holding a registered envelope with no return address. The mailman had her sign. The paper inside was thick, 5 words. No greeting, no explanation, just, you triggered it. She dropped the paper, then opened her mouth like she wanted to scream, but couldn't decide which direction to send it. She looked out the window. No audience, no movement, just the quiet pressing in. Across town, in the quiet garden, the man she used to mock sat with a small notebook open on his lap. He closed it, placed it on the table beside him. No statement on social media, no interviews, no memoir, just peace, earned in silence. The lesson here, from all of us at Office Coffee Pot Stories, is that the most dangerous enemy is the one you underestimate. Thank you for listening to this story of quiet strength and calculated resilience. We are building a community of strong survivors. Join us by subscribing now, so you never miss a lesson in self-respect. Goodbye for now.